Time for what?
Experience in college.
Time for reinforcement.
Time for liftoff!
Where nothing is impossible unless you think it is impossible.
College.
My college scholarship.
Yes.
Boom.
College ran by real fast.
You hung in with the best college.
Touchdown!
First time for everything.
Well, what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Let's do this thing.
Genius, let's do this thing!
Welcome, everyone, to the show. We have a special guest who's going to be featured a couple of times. So I want to introduce to you Isabella, who attends a public school in Sacramento County. And she has been able to decide to join us on this journey to talk about her experiences throughout the entire college process. So ready or not, here is senior year, and welcome to the show, Isabella.
Hi, guys.
Isabella, so what made you decide to do this journey? You know, I mean, we get listeners from all over here, like in different states in California, even internationally. So what made you to decide to put yourself out there talking about your journey through this college application process?
So I'm starting this process knowing very close to nothing about the college application process. I'm super confused about the step-by-step and all of the due dates and expectations that come with the college applications. I want others to have a story to listen to so that they can be more informed than I am about the college application process by the time the applications start. Talking about this process and giving weekly or bi-weekly updates is going to help me understand what I'm doing to even a higher extent, and I wanted to share my story to inspire others who feel sort of unmotivated or even like unprepared or unfit for college.
Yeah, no, I can't tell you how many students I've interacted with. You know, when I started off my career, I started off at the community colleges, which I definitely love. But so many of them said, only if I knew in high school, only if. So I want to say a huge thanks for myself and all our listeners for you putting out your experiences. And as we always say in this motto, you know, that nothing's impossible unless you think it's impossible. But sometimes it's nice to have a friend or a helper along the way. So now that like you mentioned before, you don't know much about this, or you actually said nothing about this process. So what are your biggest fears about the college process coming? You're going to be a rising senior coming this fall.
So my biggest fear about the college process is that I'm going to be really limited because of my GPA. So like because of COVID and all of that stuff that came with it, my grades were highly impacted negatively by that. And I'm worried that I'm not going to have options when it comes to choosing colleges after applications. Yeah,
and to address those fears, and you're not the only one. There's even some school districts who have decided to do pass, no pass during the pandemic. And I remember being at a conference where I've listened to some colleges, we'll understand for this semester, meaning spring 2020. I'm like, fall 2020 and spring 2021 was still a challenge for a lot of my students. I know that. But one of the nice things is a lot of colleges, like private, some out-of-state publics, UCs, gives you a chance to kind of explain yourself about what happened. And if you not that the Cal States don't care about what happened, it's just there's no essay section. There's only an appeal process. But there is a campus out there that if you feel that you got a dip, there is a possibility. So as I tell even my kids, recognize your fear, but don't let your fears control you. But there has to be, Isabella, some excitement through this college process. So tell us what you're excited about.
Yeah, there definitely is. So I'm excited to continue to research into colleges and campuses and see what those colleges have to offer as I kind of build my list of colleges that I'm interested in. I'm excited to kind of organize my own experiences into a personal statements list to use for my college applications, because I do have a lot of unique experiences and things that I've done other than GPA that kind of define me. And I'm also excited to tour college campuses and kind of get a feel for a few of them and see what I want when it comes to like location and campuses.
No, right? I mean, there's a lot of different opportunities, and this gives you a chance to get highlighted by colleges. I think one thing I love about the high school process is I get to have my students put in black and white what makes them amazing, right? Telling the world, and I don't think as in education they do them a lot. I mean, would you agree about that? And if you talk straight into the mic, we may hear you a little bit better, though.
Yeah, I totally agree. With that.
Now, you mentioned some of your impacts from COVID-19. So since you are out in amidst a lot of other high schoolers, without mentioning any names, what have you also noticed some impacts from COVID-19 from different students?
So it's really interesting because some students are super negatively impacted, like myself, when their kind of creativity outlets were taken away from them, their sports, all of that stuff. But as for other students, they actually thrived during COVID, I guess because I'm not really sure what happened with them, but they actually enjoyed distance learning more. They said it was easier. For me, it definitely was not easier. It definitely stunted my growth, and it made it really hard to learn.
Yeah, and I think that's something that what COVID-19 has brought into the world is that recognizing there's a lot of different learners, right? Like I know I'm a visual learner. I'm very hands-on, right? And I do know some people who thrived about and just learning, but I think also the social impact. I know some people who are loners, but they had no interaction with teachers and stuff like that. And it was harder for them to get even motivated on the emotional part. Do you feel that a lot of your high school classmates will be comfortable letting all the colleges know about that, who've had those struggles, whether it be academically or emotionally?
So as for myself, I know that I would be comfortable letting them know about my experience through COVID-19, and especially their junior year, because that was what most affected me. I remember putting in so much work my sophomore year to achieve all of these things, like being junior class governor of my school and being a part of so many different programs that I never really got to do because of COVID. And all of the isolation, when it comes to being isolated from our peers, from our teachers, it really did put a negative impact on my junior year.
Yeah, no, and it's we cannot echo enough. It's really important to communicate with all the colleges that give you that outlet, to let them know what you've done and what are some reasons why you haven't done certain things to hold them back. Because one thing a lot of people think, well, they'll figure it out. I'm like, they don't assume in the college admissions game. So, but also I know you're not naive and you don't assume. So what are you doing right now to prepare for this college process?
So right now, I'm just trying to research as much as I can. I'm trying to build a list of colleges that interest me, whether it be campus-wise or what they have to offer. I'm trying to narrow down a list of majors and interests that I can see myself studying in college, because right now I'm really not sure what path I want to go down. And then honestly, for me right now, it's just a lot of research and kind of getting informed about the due dates and what parts of the application process are going to be due when, and what I have to do to start preparing for that.
Now, isn't it crazy how many opportunities, how many different majors, how many different pathways, and just simply how many different deadlines there are out there?
Yeah, it's super interesting and it's super confusing and scary too. That's another thing that I'm super nervous about when it comes to the college process, is how people keep track of all of those due dates and when is too early to get ahead, when is too late to start working on those college applications.
Yeah, one of the things is, that's popping up August 1st is the Common App application that almost 900 colleges, both domestically and internationally, use, even some public universities, none in California. They advertise like, hey, we have this dashboard, here's all the deadlines, but I'm assuming someone like you'll probably apply to some public schools in California that doesn't use the Common App and the Common App. And there's so many different deadlines. There's not one app, not one program that organizes it together. So how are you planning on organizing yourself? Because organization's key number one in completing this process well.
So honestly, not until now, I haven't given it enough thought. When it comes to organizing all those due dates, I can see myself creating a calendar or some kind of poster board with all of the due dates as well as a list of what I'm going to need to have by those dates and a list of what I need to do now to start preparing for that. I'm a super visual learner, and I really have a hard time memorizing things unless they're right put out in front of me. So I think the most helpful thing for me to do is to be creating some kind of physical poster or physical paper that I can look at to remind myself.
Yeah, no, a lot of times I give students a sample spreadsheet, but like you said, like sometimes when it's online, it doesn't pop up notification like Instagram or other apps may do, right? And I remember, even my students in the 90s, they had these big poster boards, just like what you were talking about. Like there's not one best way, it's just do a way that is going to remind you. I even told families, like, put it on the fridge. Like, what's my to-do list this week and plan so that the whole family's involved. And I think that's one of the key things, too, on that. And now you said you're using different ways to discover colleges. What are some tips you have for everyone of some tools that you like for researching colleges?
So there were a few tools that I've used to research colleges, and honestly right now I do not have a list of all of the names, and I can't remember them when it comes to mind, but there are a lot of tools out there on the web that I've been using, and they're super helpful to kind of narrow down when it comes to like location, or when it comes to price range, when it comes to like what they offer, and kind of making choices depending on those categories to narrow down what colleges there are available to me.
Yeah, no, I think one of the key things is there are a lot of resources, but where to go, and most important, where not to go. So if you're not going to wait to our next episode talking about those resources that Isabel has really appreciated and some of the things that I've used that's available to the public, just remember, don't use a resource because there are scammers out there that's going to ask like for your social security number. You have to pay for it. There's a lot of free programs, either through the government or from other organizations that other colleges sponsor. So we'll definitely put that out there. But in the meantime, if you're anxious, don't hesitate. But one thing you should be excited about, and sometimes some people get anxious about that, is connecting with colleges. So Isabel, I know you're just starting on this college process, and we're going to tell people a little bit, but if someone sees a college they like, what's something that should be the next step? So if I found college X that I'm interested in, how can I make sure that that college before the application process knows I'm interested in them?
So what I would do is I would start by signing up for the mailing list. I don't really know how to say signing up or becoming a part of that college's mailing list. That for sure should put me on their list of letting them know that I'm interested in that college. You could also email the college and ask questions or let them know that you're interested and continue to explore on their website.
No, definitely. And it is, it's the mailing list. Sometimes some places call it like the VIP page. Yeah, go on the College X, just Google and put mailing list, get on there. Remember, there's also social media, Twitter. You get tons of literature to read about the schools, which I know a lot of Generation X like yourself may not like, but it's quick and easy. If you're a visual person, most colleges have Instagram, especially their clubs that's on there. And what Isabel was just mentioning was emailing the colleges. So you have a representative from your area that is going to read your applications. So a lot of times colleges will have them, put them as their staff members by state, sometimes by region. So reach out to them. And then also don't forget, there's so many opportunities out there for virtual tours. Some campuses, not all, are opening up. But if you feel that you can't visit a campus in person, no problem. Some of them will actually do a virtual meeting with the college rep, a virtual panel of current students, and also interviews as well. So Isabel and I, in future episodes, will be talking to you about how to get more connected. But any last tips for anyone who is a senior just starting this process, whether they don't know anything about the process or they're just feeling overwhelmed, or if they're even thinking, I'm not going to find a college for me?
Honestly, I feel like I'm in the same place. I'm super unprepared. I feel like I don't really know that much about the college application process. My suggestion for you would be to Google resources to help narrow down colleges and put in your requirements or interests and use those categories to narrow down what college is perfect for you. From there, colleges that you like, whether it be because of what they offer or because of the way the campus looks, and do more research into those specific colleges, like websites or social medias, and really see how much there is to know and continue to narrow down from there.
And Isabel, in case we have a listener out there that's from the professional world, whether it's a high school counselor or someone who works in admissions,